when you explain what goes on at Polyface and just the general idea, on its face value looks amazing. But you have your detractors and you have people that call you a starvation advocate and this can't scale and this will lead to all sorts of, negative things. What is your rebuttal to that idea that this can't scale up this regenerative farming pattern?
Yeah, so the rebuttal to that is number one, that we are far more productive. I'll just give you one statistic. In our county, the average pasture acre of pasture will feed 80 cows per year for one day. In other words, and we measure this in cow days per acre. So, one person day of food, if you took all the food you're going to eat today, put it on a plate, that would be one person day of food.
Mm,
So if you take all the grass or pasture that a cow will eat in a day, put it in a pile, that's one cow day worth of grass and forage. So in our county, uh, the average pasture produces 80 cow days per acre. In other words, it'll feed one cow for 80 days a year or 80 cows for one day a year. All right. And we average over 400 cow days per acre. So we're 3, 4, 5 times the county average, and we haven't planted a seed or bought a bag of chemical fertilizer in 60 years. And so, um, and so from a productivity standpoint, we're far more productive and by the way, Casper, this what I've just described is not really an organic or non-organic argument. It's simply a nature's pattern. How do herbivores go in nature? You don't see the wildebeests spread all over the Serengeti. They're mobbed up for predator protection. Well, that mobbing makes them interact with the soil, with the plants, and with their own movement different, which then makes the biomass, the vegetation, react differently. I'm not sure we have time to go into all the nuances of that, but the point is that that when you move, mob, and mow, moving, mobbing, mowing with the herbivore, it fundamentally changes the herbivore from a liability, an ecological liability, into an ecological asset. And the fact is that 95% of all domestic herbivores in the world are violating one of those three M's: moving, mobbing, or mowing. They're violating one of them, and many times they're violating all three. And so, the productivity is simply there. Another little interesting tidbit is that pre-European North America, so North America pre-European, produced more food than it does today.
mm,
Now, it wasn't all eaten by people.
mhm.
So there were 100 million bison. There were 2 million wolves that needed 20 pounds of meat a day. There were 200 million beavers that ate more vegetables than all the humans in North America today. Birds, Audubon recorded in his diary, he said, I couldn't see the sun for the flock of birds that were passenger pigeons flying over that blocked out the sun, he said, for 3 days. Who's seen a flock of birds that blocked out the sun for 3 days? So clearly there was a natural choreograph, if you will, in place that was highly symbiotic and synergistic, and so the scale, so the production, there's no question but what we can produce way more with with natural patterns than we can with arbitrary chemical usage. Now, the scale issue is kind of an interesting one because when you replace depreciable infrastructure and chemicals and antibiotics, and you replace those crutches with people, it can appear that it doesn't scale as well because there's more people involved.
Mm.
But that is not an indictment of scalability. It's simply a recognition that when you replace all of these shortcuts and crutches with people, it gives yes, it does take more people per pound of whatever, per pound of green beans, per pound of grapes, whatever. Yes, because you are replacing with skill mastery and management the the shortcuts, the pesticides, the herbicides, the chemicals, all that. Um, I mean, arguably, it does take more time to hand chop a thistle than it does to spray it with a shot of bicep. Okay, herbicide. Arguably, it does. Um, but we don't apologize for that. We think that actually a more people-centric food system is actually better. And when you realize that right now we've got a dead zone the size of Rhode Island in the Gulf of Mexico due to farm agricultural runoff down the Mississippi, the externalized costs and the from pollution to nutrient deficiency in the food system, all of those costs, if we replace all those medical and pollution and toxicity cleanup costs with proactive people at the outset, I would suggest that we'd actually have a much superior system, even though it might require more people to be involved.
Right. And when you make those cases, the environmental case, the connecting with nature case, you could say the health case, even that we know this is a healthier route for humans to go through regenerative farming to have more nourishing food that is fresher.